Good afternoon, good day, ladies and gentlemen. You are welcome to the virtual workshop hosted by AWS Cloud Club, University of Ilorin, Unilorin. Today, we'll be speaking on from code to cloud. And this session will be handled by Mr. Adit Modi.
Hi everyone.
Yes. Before I proceed, my name is Tony Abdurrashid, popularly known as Nanotech. I am the moderator for today's session. So I would love for each and every one of you to kindly drop your names in the comment section. Thank you. Mr. Adit, please let's give them like 5 minutes to introduce themselves. Sir. Please, can you kindly drop your names in the comment section, please? All right, before I proceed, I think let's continue because of time. So before Mr. Adi proceeds with his session, I would love to read out his citation. Mr. Adit Modi is a solution architect at Lauren with over a decade of hands-on experience in cloud and DevOps. He holds 11 AWS certification and specializes in AWS-related DevOps, data engineering, and infrastructures as code. As an AWS ambassador and HashiCorp's Mr. Adit is a passionate advocate for community-driven growth, actively contributing to the tech community as a speaker, organizer, and a volunteer. So please kindly join me in welcoming Mr. Adit. Today is going to be our speaker on from code to cloud. He's well grounded in DevOps, and I'm assuring you that this session will be a very promising one. Mr. Adit, can you please kindly move on with your session, sir? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rashid and the Crowd Club for inviting me to conduct this session. And I'm delighted to share that today I'm going to be talking about a hands-on topic. So I'll share my screen. Let me know whenever the screen is visible. Okay. You can see my screen, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
it's visible now.
it is visible. Okay, okay, correct. Great. Okay. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining this session. And thank you to Rashid and the Crowd Clubs for inviting me. My session or my workshop session today is going to be on
Yes, you're very
cloud
welcome,
to
sir.
yeah, from code to cloud, automating application deployment with AWS DevOps tools. So, uh, before we get started, just want to introduce this topic, right? Why this topic is important? The topic is important because here what we're trying to do is we're trying to move from writing a code in a website to automating the process and making sure that this code goes to a cloud in an automated manner, right? With the right set of AWS tools. So that is the goal that we have for this particular session. I'm going to be sharing hands-on tips of how we have to go from writing a code to deploying this code and also seeing the code live on your website. Okay. So without further ado, I will jump into the agenda for the session. Okay. So the agenda is pretty packed up. I'll first give you a session overview. Then we'll jump into some of the basic topics, right? There is DevOps, there is CI/CD, and then there is automation, right? So why do we need DevOps? Why do we need a CI/CD? Why is there a need for an automation? We'll look at all of these components. Then we will see how does an AWS DevOps block or building block comprise of, right? What are the different tools that are needed for the building blocks of DevOps? So we'll go into the details of it. Then we will see an end-to-end pipeline example. I will go into the console. I will show you how an end-to-end pipeline works. And then we'll look into some of the best practices and some of the lessons that you need to learn so that you are able to implement a solution which is according to AWS best practices. We'll finally wrap up with a Q&A. You can ask any questions you have. And I'll also share some resources that you can use to create this demo or to create this solution. Okay, so let's start the problem, right? And why it matters. So consider yourself as a developer who wants to write your code, right? Let's say I'm someone who is building my front end, my back end, or anything I'm building, right? I want to deploy this website. How do I deploy this website, right? I will have to rely on some manual logic or some scripts to deploy this. As a developer, it is very difficult for me to get this website up and running into production because everything is manual right now. I have to save this code, I have to deploy this code, then I have to push this code to GitHub. Then from GitHub, it has to go to my cloud server. Everything is manual in this way, right? So manual code deploys to production. Then the release is also slow because there are lots of hoops in this logic, right? So first I have to deploy my code to GitHub. Then once from GitHub, I have to pull my code and deploy it to a server. And from this server again, I have to push these changes, and then these changes are live on a website, right? So you see, this is a lot of manual work, and there is also slow release cycle, which means that if I were to make any change in my website, let's say I change my name from Adit to Aditya, right? So I just change two letters, but then again, all of this takes time, right? Because once I push changes to GitHub, then it goes to a server because I have to pull from a server using manual scripts, and then I have to push it to a website, right? So it's everything is manual. So manual code deployment to production, right? That is the first challenge that we see. Then second challenge that we see is slow release cycles, right? So it takes you days or even weeks to actually make these changes live into a website from your code to the cloud. It takes a lot of time, right? So that is the second challenge that we see. Third challenge is high failure rates and production incidents, right? So here nothing is monitored, right? So you're not able to know what failed, right? Sometimes what happens is whenever I try to push changes, the change is failing, right? So there is some issue that is coming in my server, but I don't know what is the change, right? Because I don't have any visibility. I'm unable to see what is happening. Why is there a failure? How do I resolve this failure, right? And there are a lot of incidents. So once my website is live, a lot of people are hitting the website, right? So then also there is an issue because I'm also not able to understand why is this caused. So all of these are manual problems, right? So there is again a silo between a dev and a ops team, right? So what we mean by dev and ops team, developer make changes. The person who is handling operations handles the operations of whether the application is working, there is a failure in the website, there is a silo. So both of them are doing their job independently, but there is no communication between them. That is another issue. And there is the final issue is risky, tedious rollblocks, right? So what happens if I want to roll back a change? Let's say I pushed a change to my website. The website is now live, but then I want to roll back that change. It is again a tedious job, right? So this is all the challenges that someone faces when they do a manual deployment. So whenever I push changes to my website from my code, all of these problems I encounter. Either it is manual code deployment, either it is slow release cycles, either it is high failure rates, or some incidents that are happening in production. Also, there is some tedious rollback changes that are happening. Right? So all of these are manual changes. Now, how does your automated DevOps pipeline change this, right? So what is the DevOps promise, right? The promise is all of your deployments will happen in an automated and a reliable fashion. So everything is automated. You don't need to worry about pulling code from GitHub, pushing code to GitHub, pulling it from my website, pushing it to website. All of this thing is automated. And again, it is reliable. Every time you push changes to your GitHub or your code base, it will actually deploy those changes to website. So it is going to happen every time. Okay, so that is why it is said is automated and reliable. Okay, so that is the first thing that happens. Second is you can release multiple times a day. So the changes that you make will work every time you make those changes. That is the second promise of using DevOps pipeline. Third is your development, your staging, your production, everything remains consistent because whenever you push changes, everything is automated. So there is a consistency in the way it is pushed, right? And your dev and your ops teams are aligned because both of them know their end goals, right? So dev team knows that once they push changes, it is done. Ops team knows that once they push changes, everything is automated, the deployments are done, and they are seen on the website. So there is no issues that they are seeing, right? So both of this dev and ops team have a shared goal, and there is a lower risk and faster rollbacks. So anything that you want to roll back, you can easily roll back to a previous version because everything is maintained in the deployment pipeline, right? So this is the promise that your automated DevOps pipeline has over a manual, right? So we saw manual has a lot of issues. We saw what all these issues can be solved using an automated pipeline. Okay. Now we'll understand what these terms are: DevOps, CI/CD, automation. Okay. So what is DevOps, right? So just to break DevOps, it is a combination of dev plus ops. So your developer plus your operation combined together makes a DevOps, right? It is all about culture, practices, and tools, right? All of these three things unite together to build your development and operations. Okay. Okay, so your automated workflow looks like this. There is a code, there is a build, there is a test, there is a deploy, and then there is a monitor. Okay, so your code, you code changes, right? You push those changes. Those changes are in some code repository. Then you build those changes. Then you test those changes, and then you deploy it on a website, and that website is live, and then you can monitor it. That is the automated workflow that happens with DevOps. Okay. And what is the goal? The goal is that any changes that I make in my website should basically be visible on the cloud or on the URL, right? So that is the meaning of DevOps. It gives you the faster, safer, and more frequent releases. Okay. Understood DevOps, right? How this works. Any changes I make needs to go on my website. And that is done in an automated manner is basically DevOps. Okay. Now, how this DevOps works? There is one term called CI and CD. CI is continuous integration. CD is continuous deployment as well as continuous delivery, right? So let's just understand what these two terms mean, right? So first, what is CI, right? CI is basically whenever you make any change in your code version control, right? That is basically CI. Whenever I make changes to code version control, it is automatically built and tested. That is called CI, right? Here you see continuous integration means every code commit automatically built and tested. Okay. Then what is CD? CD means two things. One is the code that is tested is ready to deploy anytime, which is manually, is called continuous delivery. But continuous deployment means this tested code automatically deploys to production. That is called continuous deployment. Okay. So your CI basically pushes changes from your code to build and then test it. And then continuous deployment basically pulls that tested code, automatically deploys it to production. That is the meaning of CD. Okay. So your pipeline looks like source, build, test,
Oh,
deploy, and monitor. Okay. Okay. I will just quickly show you a screenshot that is going to be helpful for you.
all right.
Yeah. So this screenshot that you see, right? This includes your all of your stages, your source, your build, your test, deploy, provision, and monitor, right? Each AWS service represent each screenshot. Okay. We will discuss what each service does and how it works. Just remember that your flow, which is your different components that comprise of your stack, are source, build, test, deploy, provision, and monitor. Okay. Now we'll go back to this slide. Okay, so I
Okay, sir.
covered till now. I covered two things. I covered DevOps and I covered CI/CD. Okay, so DevOps nothing but the entire process of doing Dev and Ops. Okay, CI/CD is what pushing changes from code, building it, testing it is CI, and then tested code, deploying it to production is CD. Okay, so you're there with me, right? Next is why automation matters, right? So what is the benefit that you get with automation, right? So first benefit is speed. Any change that you want to do in your code, it takes you minutes instead of weeks. That is the first benefit. Second benefit is quality. Any automated testing you are able to do, and you are able to test every code change very easily. This is the benefit. Okay. Third benefit is reliability. Consistent deployments happen, and you as a human don't need to check what deployment is happening, whether it is happening on time, how is it working, right? So that is called reliability. Fourth point is feedback. So faster feedback loops, meaning you are able to see what the actual automated deployment is and where there is an issue, so you are able to detect the issue and remediate it. That is called feedback. And fifth thing is agility, right? So teams respond to market changes very quickly. So any change you need to make to your code, you make the change, deploy the change, it is live within minutes. That is called agility. Okay. So let's now like we have understood how what DevOps is, how CI/CD works, and what is the purpose of using automation. Okay. Now let's move on to AWS DevOps building blocks. Okay. So as I said, the building blocks I have already shown. I will just cover each service one by one and then we'll talk about it. So the whole idea is to talk about the diagram, right? So I'll first show you the diagram again. Right. So this is the diagram. It covers your AWS code commit, it is a source. AWS code build, it is your build. AWS code pipeline, which is your source, build, test, and deploy, all put together, right? Then there is deploy. AWS code deploy is their deploy service. And then for deploying, provisioning, monitoring, you can use Elastic Beanstalk. Understood? Okay, cool. Now I'll just
Yes.
uh, try and cover the services. So this is just a architecture diagram, right? Whenever a developer pushes changes, the changes go to a code commit. Code commit is nothing but your version control tool. Consider it same as GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. Okay. Once you push changes to your code commit, the changes are in the source. Okay. Then once you push those changes, then you have to connect it with a code build. Code build is nothing but build, right? So any website, any code that you have, it builds the code for you. Okay. Then there is code deploy. Code deploy deploys the code for you. Okay. You can use code deploy, you can use Elastic Beanstalk, anything you can use for deploying the code. Okay. There is one thing more which is called code artifact. It's basically nothing but storing artifacts for you. Okay. And this entire thing is orchestrated with code pipeline. So code pipeline basically creates source which is code build, creates build which is called build, it creates a deploy which is called code deploy. So this entire thing is code pipeline. Okay. Okay. So let's see
So,
one by one everything. Okay. So AWS code commit and code pipeline, source and orchestration. So CodeCommit, what is CodeCommit? As I explained, right? It is a Git repository, but it is AWS managed. Triggers on code push. Whenever you change anything or push anything, code commit gets triggered. It has IAM based access control. Okay, so any access that you want to share to code commit, you have to create an IAM user and give it access. Okay, code pipeline, right? Now, code pipeline is nothing but orchestration. So it creates your entire workflow from source, your build, your deploy, everything is created by code pipeline. It gives you a visual stage management, right? And there is approvals for making changes as well as rollback. Okay.
Yes.
The next thing is code build, right? So I think we looked at code pipeline and we looked at code commit, which is your orchestration and which is your source. Now next we are looking at code build, right? Which is basically nothing but build and test automation, right? So what we are trying to do here is we are trying to make changes to your build spec. So any code that you have, you're basically making changes to that code, right? And then you want to test the code or basically pick a build of it, right? So what code build is good at, it basically compiles a source code in a container way, right? So any code that you have, maybe I have a Java application, maybe I have a Node.js application, maybe I have a Python application, right? So anything that you have, your code base, it first compiles the source code in a container so that it is easier to compile this, run some unit test and integration test, and generates a build artifact of it, right? So build artifact is nothing but a binary or a Docker file. Okay. Everything that it does, which is the build process itself, compiling source code, running unit tests, generating builds, all of this is done in a serverless manner. So you don't need to manage anything. Code build takes care of building the whole source code for you. Okay.
Yes.
In code build, there is a term called build spec. Right now, how build spec works is it has different phases and different builds. So you can within your build spec.yaml, you can write what you want to do. You want to do a node for Node.js, you want to do a npm test and npm run build. So you can write it in the build spec file, and you can tell CodeBuild that hey, I have this build spec file. Please use this build spec file while when you are trying to build or compile my source code. So whenever it's trying to make a build of your logic or your code, it will use this build spec file. Okay, so this is an logic or code you have to write to basically make a build, right? So this is, I will show this in the demo itself, but code build is a very good tool because it is a serverless, so you don't need to manage anything. It does all of this functionality, which is writing code, running test, and generating artifacts. Everything is done by itself. You just have to provide it logic. Logic meaning how do I make a build? What is the code I have to write to make a build? Right? All of this I have to provide it. You can either provide it in the code itself, or you can provide it in a YAML, something like a build spec. Okay. The next thing is code deploy, right? So code deploy is nothing but it has some deployment strategies. You can basically code deploy uses an normal EC2 instance or a virtual machine to deploy it. But there are four various options. One is called all at once, which means whenever you make any change, it will deploy that change to all the servers instantly, right? It is fast, but it is risky because you don't want all changes to go to all servers. Second option is rolling, which means it will deploy the changes to batch, which means it will do it for one server, then two servers, then three servers, like that. Okay, it is slower, but which is safer, right? Third is blue green, right? Now what blue green means is whenever it has any changes, it does these changes in a new environment in parallel, so there is zero downtime, right? So let's say you have your application which is running in a server. Whenever there is a new change, that new change will happen in another server which is a new environment, right? So there is no downtime. You just have to switch from older server to new server, and all the changes which are there, which you have tested in the new server, can be live, which is called blue green deployment. The fourth option is canary. This means basically deploy 10% of changes to a new server, and then gradually you have to move all the changes to this new server. Why do you do 10%? Because you want to test whether the 10% changes are working as expected or not. Okay, so these are the four options in code deploy: all at once, rolling, blue green, and canary. Okay, okay. Now I will just show you the working demo, right, that I have built. So
All right.
I will first to everyone that is just watching this, I will just try and help you understand. Whenever you are in your AWS console, first you have to log into your AWS console, right? You have to log in via your username, password, anything, right? Once you're done with that, you will see this screen. Okay, here you have to select your region. It can be anything. I have selected as of now North Virginia, but you can change it to anything. Okay, once you have done this, then first you have to select or type elastic beanstalk. Okay, I have typed beanstalk, right? You will see elastic beanstalk. Okay, I already have an environment created, but I'll just show you how to create an environment, right? You have to just type elastic beanstalk, configure environment, write a name. I will maybe write my ELB1. Okay, okay, and then I will write my ELB1. Okay, and then I will write Tomcat. The important thing that you are seeing here is there are different platforms, right? You can use .NET Core on Linux, Windows, Docker, Go, Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. Right? I'm selecting Tomcat because it's easier for it to be configured. Right. Second thing that is important to note here is you can upload your own logic or you can say sample application. I'm selecting sample for now. Okay. Third thing is you can select single instance or you can select multi instance. Right. I'm selecting a single instance right now. Multiple instances means you can have two or more virtual machines. Okay. The service role already have an existing service role, so I'm not changing. But you can create a service role as well. Okay. Okay. Then there is service role, EC2 instance profile, and EC2 key pair. All of these things are making a pre-filled one. Then I'm creating a VPC. Okay. So I'm choosing my normal VPC that is already existing. Okay. I'm enabling public IP and I'm selecting maybe one, two, and three. Okay. Next. Okay. And then I will not change anything. Let's keep everything default. Okay. I'll remove this. I'll just keep a micro and I will go next. Okay. And then here I am selecting health is basic. I'm not enabling any of these updates. This basically means that your CloudWatch will be able to see your monitoring, which is a basic one. Managed platform update means that the service Elastic Beanstalk will automatically make changes to your environment, which I've disabled for now. I don't want it to make any changes, right? And all the other changes, I'm not doing anything. I'm just saying next, okay? And I'm then creating it. It will create something for me, right? So let's just wait for it to create. Till then, we'll just start with other things, right? I will just go into another one of my tabs. I will just, okay,
Sorry, sir.
yeah, I will just go to code commit. Okay, here I'll just write code commit. Okay, so this is the service I was talking about, which is your version control, right? I already have a repository created here, but I will just create a repository, right? Something like maybe my repo one, and I will create. Okay, so you will basically see this repo is already created. Okay, everyone is following along. Okay, so yeah, once this repo
Yes,
is
we
created,
are.
yeah, okay. Once this repo is created, the next thing is for you to basically clone it, right? So I will just create a clone. I copied this, and then now I will go into my thing. I'm into my command line. Okay, in command line I'll just write one second. This is wrong. I have to write git clone. Okay, one second. I have to copy it, right? And I have to paste it. Okay, it is asking me for username, right? So how do I get username? I get my username via this. I will just go here. I will get this. This is my HTTP Git credentials for CodeCommit. Okay. So I will maybe generate credentials so that I get a new credentials. Right. I'll copy this. I'll paste it. I'll paste it here. Okay. Now password. I will copy this. I will paste it. Okay. Okay. Username. I'm copying, and then password and okay. So I have copied it. It is appears to be a clone. Right. I will just cd into it. Okay. Okay, I'm into this repository. I've copied it. Hope everyone is following along with me. Okay. Now, next step is basically I want to write some code, right? So I will just open this up. This is my repository, right? I already have some code here, right? And just so that everyone is aware, this is a some Cairo or Kiro, right? So this is basically your AI assisted IDE that I'm using, right? You can use anything. You can use a VS Code. You can use Visual Studio for writing your
Visual
code.
Studio.
It is an IDE. Okay. So I am using Kiro, which is an Amazon provided service, right? Here I have just like this is my repository. I will just clone another repository, right? This is the logic I've written, right? So you see here, I've written some application, some build spec file, some deploy file, right? Everything is in this repository, right? Now the next step is basically how do I create my code pipeline? Okay, I already have a running code pipeline, but I will just for this demo I will show you how does a pipeline work. Okay, so you have to create first. You've created I will go create a pipeline. Okay. So for this pipeline, you see there are a lot of options, right? So it's saying continuous integration. We saw, right? Continuous integration means a CI. It creates your, it uses your source and it builds a application. It can build a Gradle application, Node.js, Maven, Python, or Reflectors, right?
Um,
Deployment. What this does, this pushes the changes to ECR or maybe deploys to ECS, Fargate, or CloudFormation or Terraform, right? What is this automation? Basically creates or schedules a Python build, right? So all of these are available, right? So these are like a basic templates that are available from code pipeline. We'll create a custom pipeline, right? We'll create a pipeline name, maybe my pipeline. We'll create a queue. Why queue? Because it is one action happens after another action. Okay. Now source is code commit. Okay. You will get a repository name my repo or my repo one, right? You can choose anyone. Okay. So that is the first thing. Then second thing is I will choose my repo, right? And I will choose there's no option, so I will have to choose my repo because I don't have a branch as of now. Okay. So I've choose this. And then next step is basically I have to choose build, right? So I will say I don't want to run any commands. I will use build provider and I will use code build. Okay, we saw, right? Code build is basically nothing but building, right? You can build your or you can have a build for your code. Okay, I can create a project here. So I will just go and use code build to create a build, right? I already have a build created. I'll just, for the simplicity, showing you how to create a build. I'll write code build here. Okay. Here you can use source as uh, code commit, repository as my repo, and then branch as master. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Now these environments you are seeing, right? So all of these environments is nothing but on demand or reserve. You can manage version or a custom image. You want to use EC2s, lambdas, containers, or instance, right? We'll keep everything default. Here, there is an option of using a, you have to insert your build commands or you can use a build spec file, right? As I talked with you, we will use a build spec file here, right? Because in our code, we already have a build spec file we have created, right? You're able to see this, right? And then next step is artifact. Here we will see select S3 as our artifact. Okay. We can create or we can use any S3 object. Here we are simply putting a bucket name. Okay. You can select any S3, you can select S3 and then put any bucket name. Okay. Then next step is CloudWatch. You can just name it CW logs. Okay. And then put just CW logs. You can create a build. Okay. So this build is nothing but a simple code build that has happened now, right? Okay. Once you have used CodeBuild, you have created a project. We can just use this project, do a region, source, right? And then next. Here there is an option of creating a test, right? We can also create a test or we can skip the test, right? So in test you can do a lot of things. You can use device farms, you can use Jenkins, etc. etc. We are not doing testing as of now, right? Skip. What is the next step? The next step is basically deploy, right? Here I think I discussed a lot of options. We can use CodeDeploy, we can use Elastic Beanstalk. We will use Beanstalk here, right? Because in Beanstalk, we already saw, right? We've created an application. Let me show you this application. See, this application is working. Till the time we are discussing on the steps, this application has been created. I'll just show you. See, welcome to Elastic Beanstalk, right? Congratulations, your Tomcat application is running. Perfect. Yeah, correct. Now we will just select my ELB, right? My ELB will be this, right? This, correct.
Yes.
So just to review, what are the steps I performed for my code pipeline? I created my code pipeline. I added my source. I added my build. I created my code build project. And then in deploy, I added Elastic Beanstalk. Okay, clear? So I think all steps are clear here, right? Source, build, deploy, right? I didn't add test. Perfect. Okay. So now you see my pipeline, right? My pipeline that I've already created includes my source, build, deploy. Okay. And anytime I make any changes to this, let's say I make a change, right? So I say git add, right? I say git commit, right? And then I say git push. It is pushing all those changes. Okay. All the changes are pushed, right? So I will go here
All
and
right.
in this I will refresh it. See, just now, right? It pushed my changes here, right? And then I will go to my pipeline and I will see.
So,
See, my source got triggered. So code commit will get triggered whenever there is a change in it, code commit. I pushed my change from my VS code or my Kiro, and then it got changed to code commit. Right? From code commit, it is now triggering a code build. Now build is happening. Once code build is happening, what it is doing, it's basically doing these steps, which is it is first installing my Java, it is then doing a pre-build, which is mvm clean, compile, then it is doing mvm package, which is a build, then post build. Right after post build, it is keeping my artifact. This is all the steps that my build spec is I have written in my build spec. All of these steps are being done in my code build. Okay. Once code build does my all of these steps, then it will go to code deploy, where it will deploy to my beanstalk. Okay. We'll wait for this to happen. Till then, if you have any questions, I'm happy to address that till the time this is happening.
okay.
If any questions are there, Rashid, let me know. I can
All
address
right.
that till the time that
Thank you very
deploy is.
much for the very good session. Really appreciate this. He has actually touched the nook and cranny of what we've expected. I didn't expect this. It delivered more than we expected. So we say a very big thank you to Star Adit Modi. We really appreciate. If there's any question, can you kindly please drop it in the comments section?
Yes. Yeah. I'm so
Mr.
sorry. I
Adit,
think I have some
while that is
throat
going on,
issue.
sir,
So
I have a question.
yeah,
Okay,
sure.
okay. For the sake of those that are beginners, that are not actually, that are like newbies in this, what advice do you have for them? Like where can they start from? Those are interested in DevOps engineering.
Okay. So the question, if I'm getting it correctly, is where people can learn about DevOps. Is that correct?
Yes, actually, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think I would advise everyone who is watching and everyone who is taking a look, I would advise you to do hands-on. So uh, use your AWS console, go to the console, try out different services. There are lots of AWS services. I showed you a couple of services like Elastic Beanstalk, CodePipeline, CodeCommit, right? I would advise you all to just go try and explore these services. It will be really helpful for you if you are just exploring them, trying to learn using those services, right? So that would be my advice. I know there are a lot of courses and structured learning available. Like some things are available on YouTube, some things are available on Udemy. So there are a lot of these resources, but I would advise you to spend more time doing hands-on learning. That is going to be the biggest advantage for you.
All right. Thank you so much for that answer. I really appreciate. While
I
you
will
guys are
again
dropping
share.
your questions, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I will. I have shared my screen again. I will just take one
All right.
second.
Let me add it to stage. Okay. Yes, you're on, Sam.
Okay. Yeah. So you see in the screen, right? The changes have been deployed. Your code build is able to, it has built my code and deploy has deployed my code, right? So all changes from my source code have been done, right? I will just go back. I will just refresh it, right? And then you see this, it is working as expected, right? See, all of my
Yes.
changes are done. So this is the magic of using something like a uh, code pipeline. Your source code, whatever you have written, the logic you have written in your local repository, it is pushed, it is changed in code build, and it is deployed in code deploy, right? And all of this is done in an automated fashion. So any changes I make in code, it has to be built, it has to be deployed, and everything happens in a fraction of a second. So within 2 or 3 minutes, we are able to get from writing code to actually seeing it live on a URL, right? Here we are able to see this live, right? So this is the magic of AWS services. I will just go back to my slide and show you the maybe the last slides,
Okay.
right? Some best practices I want to highlight, right? I think before we part ways, I think this is important to talk about some best practices that everyone should be taking care about, right? So your pipelines need to be simple, but there should be a separation. So each pipeline we should have a build, test, deploy, right? We didn't talk about test, but you should always have a test also. So please ensure whenever you are creating a pipeline, you have all of these different components. Okay. Second thing
Yes,
is
sir.
unit test and integration test should be in the code build, right? So that is a very important thing that we should ensure. Okay.
All
Third
right.
thing is you should have different pipelines for development, for staging, for production. It could be in different AWS accounts. It could be all of these pipelines can be the same account. But ideally, you should have all of these environments as separate. Okay, that is also a very important thing. The last thing is you should have IAC. IAC means infra as code. So it could be written in CloudFormation, it could be written in CDK, or it could be written in Terraform. But it should be there. That is the first part of the best practices. Another thing that you should ensure when you are building a DevOps pipeline is you should secure your pipeline. So you should have least privileges when you are trying to create a pipeline. What does this mean? You only need to have very limited IAM permissions. Your branches need to be protected. You need to use secrets manager. Okay, that is the first advice. Second thing is you need to automate the rollback. So any application that is deployed should have a rollback. So whenever you want to roll back to a previous version, it is easier to do it. So that is the second advice. Third advice is you should be able to monitor everything. Your metrics, your alarms, your health, everything should be monitored. Okay.
Yes.
And the last
Okay,
thing
thank you.
is you should use version control and document everything, right? So as I was showing you, right, everything that we have built, the DevOps pipeline, everything is in a Git repository like CodeCommit, right? I named my repository my repo, and everything is in that. My build spec, my code logic, everything. Right? So it should be in a version control, it should be documented. Right?
All
Okay.
right, sir.
I think the one of
Thank
the next last steps I wanted to share is the resources, right? So here you are seeing
you.
three resources: the AWS Developer Tools Overview. So this link, if you are able to scan the code, it will take you to a link
All
which
right.
will show you all the developer tools. Okay. Second, you are seeing is CI/CD best
Yes, sir.
practices. So you are able to scan this, you are able to go to a CI/CD best practices guide. And third thing is a workshop. So if you scan this, you are able to go to a workshop where you are able to test everything from your using your own desktop. Okay. So I would recommend everyone, please scan this, see all the AWS guide and try everything yourself. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adit Modi. He actually has given us everything we need from the workshop practices to how we can escape through mistakes and the best practices in particular. He noted the best practices. Thank you once again, Mr. Adit Modi. So please, can you
Yeah.
kindly drop your question? Okay, someone have a question. What is
Sure.
the difference between DevOps and normal development and deployment?
Okay. So I think the normal development is going to be local, right? Which means that if I write anything, I can test my code or my logic in my local desktop. That is called development and deployment, right? Anything that I write, I will do a npm build, right? And then it will be built. My code will be built, and I can test it out in my local desktop. But when you say DevOps, you're actually building the code, you're deploying this code, and then you're testing it out on a website or live application, right? Which is on the internet. That is called DevOps. How do you take your code, which is local, and deploy it into live website or live application or internet? It's called DevOps.
Okay. So at Ridwanullah Bello, do you actually get the answer? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much. And a friendly reminder, tomorrow is our AWS Community Day happening at Ilorin Innovation Hub, 9 a.m. prompt tomorrow. So I'm urging everyone to please attend. For those of you that can't make it physically to the location, there's going to be a virtual link that will be dropped. Thank you. Please kindly drop your questions as we have less minutes to finish the session. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Adit, someone is asking if they can get the slide.
Yes, I will send the slides for my session to Rashid.
All
Rashid,
right, sir.
please share it across to all of your students so everyone can get benefit. Okay.
All right, sir.
And one more thing,
Thank you,
I
sir.
saw someone mentioned that the Git repository. So Git repository is not
Okay,
GitHub;
yes.
it is CodeCommit. Basically, AWS has a service called CodeCommit. So I use CodeCommit to create my code, but you can use GitHub as well. The source can be anything from GitHub to CodeCommit. Everything will work. For this particular demo, I wanted to show you all AWS services. Okay. So that was my reasoning.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Rashid. I hope everyone watching this enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I've shared my details. You
Okay.
can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to answer any
All right,
question.
sir. All right, sir. Thank you very much. We really appreciate. Once again, tomorrow is our AWS Community Day happening at Ilorin Innovation Hub, 9 a.m. prompt. So I'll be urging every one of you to please attend. If you can't attend physically, there's actually going to be a virtual session on LinkedIn. There's going to be a virtual session on LinkedIn. And AWS Unilorin has actually been broadcasting this for like a month from now. So I'm also going to drop the link in the comment section before the session. Thank you, Mr. Adit, once again for that insightful workshop.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, sir. All right, Mr. Adit, you are free to leave, sir.
Thank you, Rashid. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yes,
I really had a
you're
great
very
time. Thank you.
welcome. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Adit has dropped the link to his slide, so I'm going to drop it in the comment section now. And I'm also going to share a survey link. The survey link is actually for the AWS Community Day happening tomorrow. So please, I will urge every one of you to kindly fill the form. Thank you as you do so. And also, this is a live session, meaning this video is going to be saved on YouTube. So you have the chance to keep watching whenever you need anything from here. And you can also click on the link, share it with your friend, like the video, please subscribe, and also comment. Thank you. Yes, I'm coming. I'll drop the link to the group to the doc file. Yes. So I've sent the his documents, his slides. That's the link to his slide. I'm going to drop the link to the survey right now. Please kindly share the link to the survey with your friends. And also, there's going to be a free transportation to the venue tomorrow. Sorry. I will drop the survey link right now. Okay. That is the survey link. Kindly please fill out the survey and also share it with your friends. It's actually crucial for the community day. And also, you can follow Sir Adit Modi on LinkedIn. His name is Adit Modi on LinkedIn. Also, follow AWS Cloud Unilorin on LinkedIn and on our YouTube page. Kindly subscribe, like, comment, and turn on your notification bell. Thank you as you do so, and I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.